Hey everybody, welcome back to Ready Steady Play, where we've just finished playing Golem, and now we're going to talk about it. If you're didn't watch the series, I'm Mike, this is Chris, and Michael.
And this is what we just played.
Indeed, so Chris, this is our second game, Michael's first time with it. And we've finished all, I think, fairly close, with Chris in 129, I've got 118, and Michael's on 89, and that might come up during our discussion. But we all went with quite different sort of pursuits in this game, I think, so we will see how that panned out, and we'll talk about what we thought of the game, and also where it kind of fits in, I guess, with the other games of this group.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to pin down what this game is, isn't it, to some extent? Would you call it worker placement? There is a worker placement function. Would you call it action selection? There is an action selection function.
So it's, I mean, for a little bit of overview, I suppose, it is it says here 2 hours on the box. I think it's a chunky game. It takes quite a while to play. It's 1 to 4 players. And it is definitely a sort of a Euro management game. There's a little tiny amount of card interaction with there's 3 sort of main areas of pursuits. You've got golems that you can upgrade, and the golems come out here on the board and they move along the board, activating increasingly powerful activation spaces. But you have to keep them in line with your students, and if you let them get out of hand, then they will. You'll have to pay a price, or else you'll lose points, and it's quite severe. So you don't want that to happen. You've also got an artifact machine over here, which helps you to churn out artifacts and gain an income for that. And finally, over here, you've got the study, where you'll study books, gain books, which become increasingly powerful as you collect different sets of them. There's 3 resources in the game. There's coins, knowledge, and clay. Each of these resources will inform primarily one of these areas, but they all have multiple functions. So clay allows you to build golems and purchase golem upgrades. Coin allows you to purchase gold bullion to build the artifacts with, and it also allows you to purchase those upgrades for that area. And the knowledge allows you to purchase knowledge area upgrades in addition to books, and also it can help you to keep control of the golems if they run amok.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess the third function is actually all of my. I was about to say then knowledge actually has an additional function, but I guess the money also can be used to activate the character cards.
That's true.
And does the clay have one last function?
So maybe the golems are particularly powerful. We wouldn't know because Chris and Michael killed all of their golems, and I wasn't really doing golems.
Well, they're the most stressful part, is keeping control of the golems and not letting them run off and lose you 5 points every turn.
Well, we were just having a little bit of a discussion between episodes about how the game went and sort of strategies and things like that. And I'll summarize it now, but I might actually include it here as well. I was expressing some dissatisfaction. I thought that the book area of the board was more difficult than the other areas to activate. And Michael was saying he had done mostly focused on the same 2 areas as Chris, but had activated a lot less of his board. And so I think what we can sort of safely say is that there's sort of 2 things that you really... I mean, it's a game of escalating power. So the more you do, the more you get, the more you can do, right? So it's sort of about keeping in step with your opponents. And each area also kind of has 2 functions, because as you unlock things, it improves your opportunity to get more things. But what it also does is unlock in-game scoring. So you want to try to unlock as much as possible, and there's not really any disbenefit to unlocking stuff. But if you focus on particular areas, you can maximize the points more effectively. Having said that, I think that, and this is, I think, because I was going to say, Michael, I think when you were lamenting the fact that Chris has sort of managed to do more than you, despite the fact you'd gotten many of the same things. I mean, Chris has a few more menorahs here, which are the multiplier for in-game scoring in each area. But you have the same golem parts as him, exactly, and you've built the same number of golems. But I think the thing is, there's 2 considerations, right? There's the end-game scoring, and then there's also income. And you need a way to get income to get the currencies to do the things, right? And each area provides income, but it's not necessarily the income that's tied to that area. So it's going to give you stuff, but then that stuff may not be what you need. So you have to look at ways of turning it into what you need or being clever with it. And so what's interesting is that I think that the artifacts area actually is kind of the most straightforward way to get income, because it's very apparent how you do it. What you do is you complete the rows and you upgrade the systems, and every income phase it churns out stuff. And in addition, when you complete the artifact, you also get the income at that time as well.
Yeah. In addition to that, I also managed to optimize this engine here, where I managed to activate these artifacts additional times by taking red marbles and building golems. I actually did both of these twice throughout the course of the game.
So that's really effective. And so what you can do is you can add in these golden tablets, which you didn't use actually, but I only used one. You can add in the golden tablets to activate these more often. And when I first played with Chris, I latched onto that very quickly, and it worked out great for me. So I do think that
you went even deeper. You actually maxed this out.
Yeah, I basically maxed that out, and then I managed to do a bunch of other stuff because I couldn't do anything else there. And, I'd already sort of done a bit of progress elsewhere because I had...
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. They're all kind of interlinked. Like I said, you don't get everything you need from one area, so you kind of have to go back and forth. Or you'll get stuff you don't need for that area, so then you'll want to use it elsewhere.
And some also marble dependent. You won't be able to just keep hammering out the same action over and over again, most likely.
Yeah. And so what the books, the way they give you income is essentially by doing sort of a set collection, where every time you buy a book card, you immediately gain a benefit from that book card. You also gain a benefit from an upgrade if you've done it, and then you'll gain the benefit from every book in that column, which means that the bigger the columns are, the more income you're going to get. And I feel like that there's a promise there for potentially quite big gains, but I think that there's two challenges there to overcome which are quite tricky. One is that you have to progress up this row before you can start maxing out those columns.
And that's what I struggle with hugely when I tried the book strategy.
But I think the other thing that really stumped me in this game was that I wanted to activate the columns to maximize the profits, but that would mean I wouldn't be able to complete all 4 columns, which would massively inhibit my in-game scoring, because they have to be different colors as well, which is really quite tricky. So in the end, I got a 3, a 2, and a 1, and a 1.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if this was necessarily worth it, because this was worth like 7 points, this green book. But I don't know, could I have got more? I think the bigger issue with the income side of things, though, is that this really gatekeeps how many books you can put in a column, and so you can't really get good income out of the books until later in the game, which can be a little bit scary, especially if other people are getting a lot more income earlier on. I actually wound up triggering this book column early and got these gold bullions from it, and then activated these, which is where I got a lot of my income. So I actually used the book only to trigger this income over here. And then I think the golems are also a really tricky income to manage, because the way the golems bring you income is actually by activating the spaces on the board. And not all of the spaces are resource spaces, a lot of them are actions. And if you want to get maximum benefit from the golems, you actually have to have them on the board, which also means managing them.
Which is hard.
Which is very difficult. Chris and Michael wound up killing a lot of their golems, and I think most of the time you only had like 1 or 2 on the board. And when that happens, it means you can't get the most benefit out of this action.
I didn't do that action a single time.
That action, I think you did it maybe once or twice.
Once or twice.
I think I did that more. I think I did that like 3 times, so I probably did it more than both of you.
Didn't do it at all. I just when I realized when I got this upgrade to move my golem forward when I made him, I realized I can kill a golem by making one. And I did it twice. I built one, immediately killing another one.
And when you kill them, there's a little benefit down here for getting points as well. And so I think that's a really, really, really tricky way to sort of play the game. And I've definitely not worked out how to do sort of income via golems exclusively, if that's even viable at all. I just kind of observed there's a way to sort of collect currencies in each area, but maybe golems are more about just getting points during the game, because I think you get probably about 30 or 40% of your points during the game. I think that depends on your strategy, though, because golems that get down the end here can collect a lot of points, but It's difficult to have them living there because
they can't move. Yeah, because they
can't move on. So you'll have to kill them eventually. So it's like, how do you move them down the track? And then it's quite expensive to get them out. But
it's actually more beneficial to advance the students because they get the manure and they also look at that 6 income every turn, 6 points.
The students are very difficult to progress, and actually, you have to make tough decisions about taking the marbles to progress the students. So the way the game kind of works is that on your turn you'll have an action selection where you're picking one of these actions with your meeples here, and then you're also picking 2 of these actions by selecting the marbles next to them. The marbles allow you to move the students along these tracks, which also provides an income. However, if the color of the marble doesn't match up with the track you want to move your student on, if the color of the marble doesn't match up with the action you want, then you won't be able to move the student on the track you desire, which is very difficult. And it's a very, very crunchy game.
That's another area, I think, where you kind of went against yourself a bit, Michael, that you advanced this guy all the way to here, but then kept killing the golems rather than actually using them rather than actually having them further up the track. Well, whereas I killed my golems and I also therefore didn't waste any time bothering moving students.
Because, the reason was I kept killing... I didn't really kill them here.
I must have forgotten to move them actually at some point.
But I think it was because I just couldn't see... I think too late I just couldn't see the value in whatever this was. Because I think a lot of the time I had to spend money to do... I think what I didn't get... They didn't necessarily land on something that was efficient for me. So like this one where you like get -4 so you can get your books, or this one which is like minus clear to get everything up. Like the -1 here is right at the start, and you can never really get that. It's
when you build someone and you immediately activate it. I mean,
or just like you have to move a different golem.
Yeah, but what I mean is you activate it. It was very rare that. Because I had this one on here so often, to get someone on here is double the price. It's like 6 clear. Yeah. So I was always putting it on other ones because it's more resource. So yeah, I think it's just I didn't necessarily have the golems on anything that was efficient at the time.
Yeah, there's definitely a strong sort of crunchiness to the game, but I think there's also like. It's quite often you'll sort of run up against hard options where you can't really do everything you want to do, so you've got to sort of optimize quite carefully. But I also think that success begets success in this game as well. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I do like that we can do a bit of everything, and I do feel like there's lots of sort of different scope to do different things and opportunities to do different things. I generally like that. What I also like is that when it provides resources, we get lots of different kinds of resources, which encourages you to look at doing other things. But
I think a common problem often is that the best strategy is to focus on one thing.
Yeah, I mean,
that doesn't seem to be the case in this. You maxed out a track and I didn't, so to speak. They're not tracks, but you maxed out one of the 3 sources of points, major sources of points, and I didn't.
Yeah, and I was, I mean, so I think the thing is, like my sort of feeling about the game is kind of that, I mean, I do enjoy the sort of the balance of the student and the golems. Once again, nobody suffered any penalties in this game.
I enjoy not engaging with it.
Yeah, you just ignore it and look for ways to kill them, which is fair enough. I was just sort of managing them in slightly different ways. You mostly killed them as well. You and Chris killed actually you killed more than Chris, Michael.
They did.
That's fun, isn't it?
But I think it was more I didn't purposefully set out to do that.
I still have one.
You've got one.
Where did he come from?
Then you made him out of clay.
I made him on my last turn. I would actually be quite interested in attempting. First, I'd like to try the book strategy again. But I'd also like to try a focus on the golem strategy and just do the golems and actually, because this, if you get the golem track all the way to the top, you're getting 5 points every turn.
Yep. I
And
think
if
I
you
did
move
in the
the
other
student,
game.
and if
which
you
is
have the
good.
students quite far forward, you're also getting quite a lot of points every turn. I quite like to attempt, just basically having lots of golems on. But the thing is also, this is the top, you got 10 movement points. I don't see how that's feasible, even if you've loads of golems. You'd have to start killing a few, wouldn't you?
Well, but having more golems helps you manage the movement.
Yeah, because you can basically just do 3 per track.
Yeah, but
can't
if
you?
you've 10, that's... Anyway, I mean, look, I'd be interested in trying it. Because, if you gets near the top of this track and you've got students who are quite far forward, you could be generating 10, 12 points every turn.
Well, if you get that, I suppose.
So this upgrade vastly reduces the cost of controlling Eric golems.
But it doesn't help with the golem movement, though.
Oh, that's true.
This one helps the golem movement. But, I mean, I'm thinking 10 by itself is insane. Let alone the character edition. But I really enjoyed it. The first time we played it, I didn't really engage with strategically speaking. We played it very late after the last night of Essen, and I got absolutely destroyed by Mike.
What did you get? Can you remember? Was it like above 100?
I think Mike got a similar, like 130 or so, and I think I got something similar to you, but actually less. I think maybe like 70. Is that about right? Would you say?
That sounds about right.
So something like that. But I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed playing it at the time we played it, the two of us. And I enjoyed it this time as well. I really like it. I like the way it's got a lot of stuff. Like I said, it's got its fingers in a lot of pies in terms of mechanisms. It's got some light engine building, extra selection, what do we call it? Worker placement. It's got a little bit of push your luck with the marbles, with passing on the marbles. It's even got slight race element in terms of these menorahs. I mean, I suppose that's very minor. It's got resource management. It's also got a different type of resource management insofar as the control of the golems. The tracks is also essentially an elaborate form of resource management to me. It's really got its fingers in a lot of Euro mechanisms, and I think that's one of my favorite types of games. Is when they just pull a lot of flavors in and make this salad, but not a point salad, as Tom Vassell would negatively say. It's not a point salad where this gets you points and that gets you points. But it is to a certain extent. But it's not that everything gets you points. It's just that there's several different ways to gain points. There's 3 major ways, and I like that whole multiplier system with the menorahs. And I think there's a lot of things right as well. In addition, I think stuff like the marbles having multiple functions, moving the students along, but also potentially giving you the benefit of the character card. So even little things like the fact that marbles sit here, I think is very nice design. I love the box art actually as well. You say it's scary, but I think it's really, really nice and pretty. It ticks a lot of boxes for me. The toy element of the synagogue is just a really nice final checked box. Which kind of pushes it to that next little level. I'm actually a really big fan. I'm very glad I picked up my own copy.
So every round you'll throw the marbles into the synagogue and see what's available, but there's a function where you can pass to cast the marbles each round. Only 4 rounds.
If I have one criticism...
Yeah. Sorry, before we get into negative, I just want to quickly say, that was the other thing I want to say. Even though it's quite a long game, I left my mind a minute ago, I do like the fact that it is just 4 rounds, and every round you get 3 actions, and that's just 12 actions, that's the whole game. It's not a short game, even though it's only 12 actions, it is a good 2-hour game, but it doesn't feel insurmountable, it doesn't feel like you're sitting down to, you don't need to sit down to, and someone says, oh, this is a long, sit down for Fury Dracula, and someone says, how long does it play? Ooh, 2.5 to 3 hours. Maybe 2 hours if you're lucky, and you don't know how far along the game you are necessarily sometimes. I like the fact that even though this is a long game, it's got a very finite. Is that 12 actions each? That's it. Sorry, Michael.
No, I was just going to say, if I've got one criticism about this, is I think it's a bit... For me, I think it doesn't look snazzy enough.
Oh, I'd agree with that. Synagogue's a little bit...
It looks a little bit unfinished, if I'm honest. I like the mechanism, the mechanics of it, and I think that's quite a fun element. But I kind of think it almost is like... It looks half done.
Prototypey.
Yeah.
Not the
Like-
whole game, just Synagogue, right?
Just a synagogue, exactly. I mean, the tray. I mean, I get that they've got to have it. This tray just feels a little bit. I don't like saying this word because it's not, but it just seems cheap compared to everything else that's done quite nicely. And the design on it, I don't know what else you'd have on here, to be fair. I'm being picky, but. As the design of the tray, but yeah, the actual design and the when this is all like quite intricate and like looks like it's in Prague and it's like set back in the day in like the Victorian era, and they've gone to quite a lot of effort to put to make the buildings look like they are of the time. This just looks incredibly plain. Now maybe synagogues did look like that back in the day, just wanting something that's not.
I think the facade of the synagogue is looks okay and looks accurate, but I agree with you. There is an overall lack of embellishment to the design and an overall sense of cheapness. I definitely would agree with that.
Yeah. So, particularly because everything else is so well detailed.
Yeah, everything else is very, very detailed. I mean, I think that I think in the age of Kickstarter, the game is clearly not a Kickstarter, but I think I think as well, you know, it's one of those games where, you know, I do really like it actually. I think it's a fun little puzzle. I'm interested to see how the whether there could be some kind of like golem strategy where, you know, you try to keep them on the board or manage them a bit more, like sort of, I don't know if you move like across the 3 columns very slowly and sort of try to activate the spaces more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's what I'd like to try.
I don't know if that's viable. I'd like to see if it is. I think that, I think that the, and I was saying to Chris that I was having a little problem with the book strategy, and I do think that to an extent my problem with the book strategy would be mitigated more if other people were buying more books. It's like it's the kind of part of the game where, because you get rid of one book every round, but otherwise the only time the books change is when someone buys one. And as you can see, Michael bought none, and Chris only bought 2. And I think Chris was having
natural churn then.
Yeah, not much natural churn, which meant that it was quite difficult to find books with functions on them that I could really utilize for a lot of benefit, and that was problematic for me. I don't know.
I would have liked to have bought another book.
So I think.
Ran out of actions. It's only 12 actions, man.
Well, I think, you know, because at the end of the day, what you want is to get the marble in the row that you want it first, and you want the color you want. So if people are taking the same sort of action row as you, like make a golem, or activate the golems, or get the gold, there is a bit of sort of disincentive to, or for you rather, it's a little bit like, oh, it could be a bit annoying because they take the marble you want, right? But I think that with the books, it's like, no, please do activate the book row, please, you know. And the other thing is, like, a lot of that's mitigated. This bottom row allows you to activate any of the rows above it if you have a coin. So, you know, there's potentially a lot of action there. And as we said, you can pause and wait and reset the marbles. And there are, in fact, also more marbles if you play with more players. So,
but between the mirror and the passing mechanic, there's so, like, you're never going to be in a position where you can't do the action you want to do. Mm-hmm. I don't think. Unless you've taken that, unless that's happened to Michael, you've pushed it all to your last top possible chance, and then none of the marbles go into the one you wanted. But that's kind of, there's an element of that's your fault then, right? That you pushed your luck too hard.
Mm-hmm. There's, and I think that, so I think what I was sort of going to summarize it with was I do like this, but I also think it leans into sort of a kind of like little puzzle that I particularly do enjoy. And like I said, I've got a lot of their games, you know. I think if I had 3 people around a table, I might be more inclined to get out Barrage, but it's much longer and more complex, so it depends on the mood. It's just Barrage is a very similar game, but with a lot more player interaction. As a consequence, it can also be a lot harsher, so I don't know if that's necessarily something that people would enjoy. It depends on the group, you know, as usual. I also think if people are not into this kind of thing, this is very much its kind of thing. So if you're not into this kind of game, or looking at this board and all of these icons and systems makes you upset inside or feel a bit nauseous, then this is not going to change your mind about that. The gimmick of the dice will not overcome that,
Marbles.
I'm afraid. Marbles, sorry. Yeah, we've called them dice and tiles and all sorts. We're so unused to marbles showing up.
It's very like the Potion Explosion. Have you ever played Potion Explosion?
Yeah, I have actually, a long time ago. I was thinking also of Gizmos.
Yes, I played that as well. Gizmos
Which
is
we played actually at we played Gizmos at Alexandra Palace at the
Did we?
Gaming Live or Gaming.
Gizmos is just
Magazine
is Splendor with a marble tray.
Pretty much, sounds about right. But there, so I think but I think as an example of the genre, it's got enough little tweaks and changes to make it interesting to people who like this kind of thing. And it's a good solid example of the genre as well. So, I don't think you can go wrong if you like this kind of thing with this edition. And it's got at least enough interesting about it that you'll get 3 or 4 plays out of it probably before you start, before you're done with it. And that, I think, is more than enough to justify the... Well, not cheap cost. I think we paid about €60 for it. So I think at €60, if you're into this kind of game, this is gonna, I don't think that's... I mean, because it's a little bit more expensive than you'd probably expect to pay.
It is a little more expensive
for a game of this genre, but it's not that much more expensive. It's 10. I mean, €60 was that's like 50 quid. That's pretty much about right.
I think I would have expected 40, 45, but. Things are getting more expensive now, unfortunately, because the way the world is. Cardboard's more expensive, isn't it? But I agree with you that it's a rock solid example of the genre, and I think it does enough unique stuff as well to justify placing my collection, and it also just happens to trigger enough of the right things. In my brain, to have me inexplicably really like it.
I do feel oddly compelled to continue. I mean, I almost feel like the curious inconsistencies we've noticed with the different strategies makes me want to play it more, because I want to kind of figure out, is this viable? How viable could this be? Or is it just the marbles putting it off? Or I don't know. Is there a strategy where you get a ton of these? Probably not. It's not really worth having more than 4 completed of these, getting lots of these.
Just keep fetching them. I mean, you could keep getting them here. And also it's worth noting that these tiles, for example, there are 10 of these, and you only have 7 in each game. But they are numbered, so you'll never have a super powerful one early on. You draw 7 randomly and then put them in sequence from lowest to highest. But there is some game, there is some random setup involved there. Obviously you've got the whole stack of books. There's, maybe 20 character cards.
Yeah, there's a lot of character cards.
Of which you only see 4.
You only see 4 per game.
There's actually quite a lot of these artifact boards. They're double-sided, and there's 4 of them, so there's 8 in total.
Yeah, I wasn't super impressed with the artifact board I got, so I didn't do much of it. I just did the cheapies.
Well, you got last pick.
Last pick.
There's also lots of the starting tiles, where it's your starting resources. I've forgotten what I was fetching. Character cards.
What would you have wanted to see?
There's also lots of objective cards, aren't there? So
what would you have wanted to see?
I think it might have been something more useful up here, maybe, or maybe it was the sort of combination of these and these as well.
Where's I put the character cards?
Because points are good, but they don't help you progress in the game, do they?
Well, like I said, I still think that the artifacts are the most apparent way of progressing the game. And what's interesting, not progressing the game, of gaining an income and sort of customizing the income as well, because it can be customized.
Quite a few characters.
Yeah, there's quite a few characters as well. The characters are an interesting thing. I actually found myself triggering the top ability a lot more in this game, probably because I wasn't going for the artifact thing. But that's a good point as well. Like, because you can customize these rows, you can really get an efficient income out of here. But I think, I think you probably did a bit of a disservice not utilizing this row more. I say that, but I don't really know if that's fair. Because these ones are obviously cheaper to get into here and here, but they're more expensive here, here, and here, so... It's definitely a tricky balance. I spent all of my money on these, and I managed to grab some discounts too. What did you think? Did you think I don't know, or did you feel sort of compelled to come back and try and improve on the puzzle?
I didn't dislike it, but I wasn't enamoured with it either. I think that's my issue with it. I don't know if it's because maybe I am compelled to come back. I think I'm just really I think I keep weighing it up while you were talking, and I can't work out in my head on which side of the fence I'm on. It's like I can't work out how inefficient it seemed I've been when we've done exactly the same actions. And probably when we play it back, I can see probably in all the options where I've missed out on
detailed documentary footage.
Exactly. And so then it might be compelling to come and give it another go, because I always it's like a bit of a trait of mine, isn't it? I always don't do very well the first time, and I kind of need that knowledge, and then I can do well on subsequent plays. So maybe I would not like it more, because I don't dislike it, but maybe I might find it more compelling, or the puzzle a bit more compelling next time, now that I've got a bit of an understanding of bits and how it plays through. But yeah, it's not something that gets me excited. That's just my first impression of it. I'm trying to work out whether that's just because whether it seems that I don't think I've done badly. I know it seems like I'm a way off when I compare to you, but I don't think I've done badly. But yeah, as I say, I just don't know if it grabs me enough.
Yeah,
I don't you're right. I actually am quite enamored with it. I really quite like it, and even I do think that given obviously I bought it at Essen under the excitement of buying a new Hot Essen release, and now that money's spent and I can't remember spending that money, I'm very happy I own Golem. But if I didn't own Golem and now I was being asked to pay £50 for this, having played your copy, I'd be like, 50? That's 40, I think. That's I do understand that costs are going up. Costs to produce to ship, all this stuff, and that's perhaps a reality we just have to get used to. But in my head, this is worth £40, not 50.
Do you know,
But now that I have it, I'm glad I have it, and I really enjoy it.
Here's another little thing we observed here, Chris, which is that we noticed that there is 3 things you can do with each currency, and only 2 you can do with clay. But what is also interesting is that the set collection of the books is gate-kept by this study development track, and the production of the artifacts is gate-kept by the requirement to get the gold bullion.
Yes.
But nothing gate-keeps the golem upgrades.
Yes.
You could spend the currency
literally
directly,
spend straight away, can't
get the
you?
benefits right away. So, but it's much more difficult to manage on
That's
the
an interesting
board.
point,
So there are these little sort of subtleties around that.
Subtleties in balancing it out, isn't there? It is
Something,
it's thought out, 100%.
I'm very excited to teach this to the people I play with. I'm excited to teach my family, and I'm excited to teach my game group. I think a lot of people will enjoy it a lot. So it's a real positive.
I think if you were to ask me, you can play this, this, or this, I don't think I'd pick this as number 1.
What depends what the other 2 things are, doesn't it?
Anything.
This or hotel.
Hotel. You're like, good God.
Why do we ask you?
How rude. I really like Orleans.
Orleans, yeah.
Orleans cool.
Oh, well, Orleans is fantastic. But you'd pick this over, Black Rose Wars, I think.
That's because it's the skirmish, isn't it? And
Well, because it's the direct confrontation. I mean, this is very much like, even if there's no... there's a little bit of player interaction.
You were the cause of the
I know.
confrontation.
Well, the only confrontation really is how you steal other people's
If you took
marbles
someone's marble or
or
spot there, yeah.
spot there.
Yeah.
Or their book, which didn't happen. But so there's very, very little player interaction here. It does have that sort of solo... I mean, or you take a die and you're like, I'm passing, and everyone knows you're going to re-roll all those, or reset all those dice.
Die again.
Recast all those marbles. So they're like, oh, better get that one thing that I want before they all change. So there is a little bit of player interaction, but I do think you lean more into the games with less player interaction, unless they're cooperative.
Yeah, then I'm very cool. Then bring on all the action.
Inter or intra.
Just whatever. Yeah. Graggle's very not fussy with cooperative games. It's his favorite genre. So, I think, I think that in a traditional Euro style, this is very sort of, it's got a strong theme, but the theme and the mechanisms are very divorced.
That's Euro.
That's one of the defining traits of Euro. I guess it's the divorce of the feel of the mechanisms, because obviously the golem's moving down the track, or the golem's moving and the student's trying to keep control of them, and you've got ways of upgrading the golem so it's less of an issue, and if you study, you get knowledge, which can help you control the golems as well. This all feels thematic, but then ultimately what you're doing is you're getting resources and spending resources, and knowledge is the same as coins, which is the same as clay. It's all just a currency that you're managing. So, there's no real theme there.
Well, I appreciate the theme. I always appreciate the theme.
It's nice to have a theme, and
it's different. I've never seen this theme before.
I do like the golems going down the tracks. It could be a dog walking game.
It's cool. Look at the golems thing. Yeah. Cool. The only place I've ever seen golems before is the expansion to Alchemists, and I haven't played it. So.
There's a golem card in Dominion.
Is that?
It's in Alchemy.
Interesting.
So I guess that's a thing, some kind of thing. So I think for me, I think I recommend this solidly to anyone who is already looked at it and is interested. And if you looked at it and you said that's not my thing, this is not going to change your opinion on it really. But also if you looked at the price tag and you're like, that's a bit dear, there probably are cheaper entries in this category which are as good, but if you've got a lot of them already, or you're excited by the new one, or something that does shake things up a little bit, does just a little bit of stuff differently, or has a tower for rolling dice, then you can check this out.
Yep, I think in my opinion, shop around. If you can get a slight discount, I think I would definitely get a big recommendation from me.
Well, I don't think I have too much more to say, really.
No.
I do. I think if I were to rank, by my personal opinion, the games from this sort of design group which I own. So there's Marco Polo 2. There's the Grand Austria Hotel. There's Lorenzo Magnifico. And Barrage, and am I missing anything? This is the ones I personally own. That's definitely not an exhaustive list.
Rank them now!
Now Golem. Well, I'm thinking about it, and I do think that there is, definitely some skill. Like, Barrage definitely sets itself apart as being something quite different because it's got more involved player interaction than the rest of these. You're doing like all of this, and then there's this crushing sort of territory control thing going on where you might just not get anything. Or you can sort of latch into someone else's engine and just generate money from what they're doing.
That's cool.
So I think, I do really like Marco Polo, and I think it's partly, or Marco Polo 2, which do I prefer of the two? I think they're both equally good.
So if you said to me, Marco Polo 2, or this, I would not, this would be the last of this would be 3 of 3.
Well, I do think that Marco Polo is the most accessible to people who are least interested in this kind of game. Because it's got the dice rolling, and that's fun, and you've got like sort of little ways to manipulate the dice, which is fun, and I do think it's probably the most accessible. Marco Polo 2 is more complex, I think, than Marco Polo 1 because it layers on this extra thing with the shields and the building things in the cities with the shields, but it's not that much more complex.
I think it's I found it kind of needless faff, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Marco Polo 2 adds needless faff to the end game scoring, but Marco Polo 1 I think is more difficult to achieve stuff in. So in a way, Marco Polo 2 kind of feels better while you're going through the process because you feel like you get more and do more. But then it's got complicated faff at the end, whereas 1 doesn't have that. But 1 with the expansions solves some of that.
Is it expansion?
There's 2 expansions for Marco Polo, I think. And mostly they work on the movement around the board because that's the trickiest part in the core set alone. Which is it's to get around the board and sort of do all the different bits. But I really like the Grand Austria Hotel. and I think that might be my favorite. So we should play it on the show. It's a classic.
Yeah, I looked
I
at
played
it. I saw a video of it, and it really looked like numbingly boring to me.
Well, I haven't played it in a while, so maybe if we revisit it, I'll find my tastes have changed.
Oh,
That could be interesting.
that's interesting. People's tastes can change. You heard it here first.
Oh my god. There we go. Mind blown. Leaving you on that mind blowing note. There we go. That's our final thoughts on Golem. So I hope that you've enjoyed this playthrough and that it's helped you make some decisions about this game. All this content is entirely supported from our Patreon. So if you want to see more of this stuff, please consider supporting the show on Patreon. There is a $1 option currently that you can get in on. So that's not a whole lot to give for something that you like.
If you like a trick, please click.
If you like the trick, please click. Oh no, I forgot to give out the URL.